we have baggage from the past. We have hurt, we have wounds, we have scars. I often make the joke, you know, the only people in the world that don't have baggage are the little babies in maternity ward. Okay, so everybody else has got some degree of baggage, whether it's major trauma or just the bumps and bruises of being ghosted and gaslighted and dumped and of divorce and right. So we've got this stuff. Most of us haven't let it go. Most of us get in relationships. It's like a menage a trois from hell. It's me and you and my past. And the three of us are in this relationship.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Love, Laughs, and Lessons. So thrilled to be here with you all. I'm Dr. Frankie.
And I'm Denise Rai. And today we are truly delighted to have an insightful guest joining us, Roy Biancalana. Roy is a nationally recognized relationship coach, best-selling author, and host of the Attracting Lasting Love podcast. With over 15 years of experience, Roy has helped countless singles identify and overcome the internal barriers that keep them from finding deep, fulfilling relationships they desire. His journey into coaching is a personal one after experiencing heartbreak, divorce, and a series of unsuccessful relationships. Roy sought out coaching himself. That experience changed his life, and now he's dedicated to guiding others through their own relationship challenges with a mix of modern coaching techniques and deep personal insight. He's also the author of Relationship Bootcamp, hardcore training for life, love, and the pursuit of intimacy, where he emphasizes the importance of being in relationship shape, because great relationships aren't about luck, they're about personal growth and self-awareness. Roy, we are delighted to have you. I want to dive into this. I want to know. I need some kick butt boot camp love lessons.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate being here with you guys. I'm sure we'll have a great conversation.
Yeah, so I know we started talking. We had a few minutes together before we actually hit record. I just maybe even share more in depth about what it is you focus on with your clients.
Yeah. I think it might be good for people just to know kind of where I'm coming from and my own journey. I think people, I think we can receive ideas on relationships when we know the person offering them has had their own challenges and worked it through and applied it their own life. You know, they eat their own cooking kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have just had the most awful relationship history, right? I joke, but I think I'm being serious when I say that I've made about every mistake you can possibly make in the pursuit of intimacy. And I thought if you just do the opposite of everything I've done in my life, you'll be real good. Okay. Because I was married for 19 years. And that relationship sort of devolved into a functioning kind of co-parenting, brotherly, sisterly type of relationship. We lost our man-woman connection. We didn't fight much. We didn't F much, if you know what I mean, right? I mean,
That's right.
And I don't think that was very satisfying for my ex-wife. Certainly wasn't for me. So I initiated a divorce. And it's at that point that looking back, is my first mistake. That I just rebounded into another relationship immediately. And it was the opposite relationship. Meaning it was like all sex, which at the time was really fun for me because it had been a long time. But I never stopped to look at myself, introspect, ask myself questions. I didn't do any work. I just went from one relationship to the other. It was like a Tarzan syndrome, right? Tarzan is swinging through the jungle, letting go of one vine, grabbing another one. Okay, so I did that. We were together then for about 2.5 years. We were engaged to be married, and 6 months before the wedding, she broke up with me, and that one destroyed me. Okay, that one gave me what I call like a year-long midlife crisis. I mean, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. My work suffered. My parenting suffered. I had obsessive thoughts. I mean, I was a mess.
Mm.
And then came mistake number two. Even then, I didn't decide to get help or, do some introspective work and ask questions like, why is my love life going in such a terrible direction? I just had so much pain. I didn't know anything other to do than I just joined 4 online sites, and I was going to find me a new woman to forget about the last one. Okay. So I laugh about this because otherwise I'll just start crying, because it was so unfair to all the women I met online, because even though I felt like I was emotionally available, I was not. I was using them to help me forget about the last one. So you can imagine the amount of drama that I started to create when I met women and I acted like and even spoke like, hey, I'm looking for someone. I really want to have a relationship. I'm really available, but my heart really wasn't. There was somebody still in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So that led to an unbelievable amount of drama, much of which I write about in my first book. I've written 3. And it's spectacular drama. It's horrifying and funny and awful all at the same time. And it was right about this time that a friend of mine said, hey, Roy, do you think maybe you should talk to someone? And ladies, I'm telling you, my ego was so huge at the time that I didn't even understand what he was saying. I'm like, what do you mean, me talk to someone? Because in my mind, the reason my love life sucked is because I just hadn't met the right woman yet.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
See, it was all your fault.
Yeah.
Right? My ex-wife was this. Oh, my ex-fiance was this. All you crazy women online. It never occurred to me that I was the common denominator in my relationship history and that maybe I had something to do with it. It's just, the lack of self-awareness is just staggeringly hilarious. But when he suggested that, for a while, I rebelled against it. But I think I eventually opened up to it, because I tried everything else, and I was in so much pain that I decided to, give coaching a try. So I hired a coach. And right from the get-go, my coach just said, Roy, I don't want to hear about all your exes. I don't want to hear about your ex-wife and your ex-fiance. I don't want to talk about them. I want to know if you want to talk about you. I want to know if you want to look in the mirror and perhaps discover how you are responsible, or at least partly responsible, for what you've been experiencing over the last 20-some years of your life. Right now, I kicked and screamed about that a little bit, but for some reason, grace of God or whatever you want to call it, I don't know, I turned out that I was willing to look in the mirror. And lo and behold, I found out it really was my fault. I mean, I really was doing something. And perhaps we'll get into this, but I discovered that I had major mommy issues that were unconsciously just running my life. And those issues were like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. They were pulling the levers and turning the knobs, and it was responsible for the women I was choosing, the patterns I was getting into, the ways I was showing up, the limiting beliefs I had, the assumptions I had, the beliefs I had about what does it take to get a woman to like you. And
That's right.
right. So coaching, when she started asking those kind of questions and I started waking up to this kind of stuff, it led to so many aha moments. It was like, oh my God, no wonder my love life has gone the way it did, right? Certainly my ex-wife and these other women had their issues. I'm not saying they didn't, but without my issues, it never would have gone the way it went. So seeing that, and then those issues, once I could see them, they're not that hard to fix. The hard part is discovering how you're sabotaging yourself. Right. Once you do, you can work with it. Right. And I did. I spent a little time with my coach. We worked on some of those issues, and I was able to pretty quickly, meet and date and fall in love with and get married, and I've been with her now for 17 years. And it's just an amazing thing.
What's pretty quickly, Roy? What's pretty?
I would say within 18 months.
Okay.
Of when I first started working with my coach, that I met the woman who now is my wife.
Yeah.
And the people say, why'd you become a coach? I became a coach because after I came through all this stuff, I felt like Lucy in that book, The Chronicles of Narnia, where she wanders in the wardrobe closet and finds Narnia. And she's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. She had to go back and tell her friends what she found.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to do for other people what my coach did for me. I didn't get lucky. It wasn't like the universe smiled at me. I did a particular process. I asked certain questions of myself. I looked at certain areas,
mm-hmm.
and it's transferable. So I just tell people, if you do the stuff I did, you can have the results I've gotten, because it's just not special to me. And so that's why I'm a coach. I want to point people in the same direction that I went, because it really produced results.
So going back to the initial question I put out there is like how you do what you do, I think is interesting.
Yeah. I think maybe the best thing to do, there's a way that I describe what I do. I work with single people who want to attract a healthy, sustainable relationship, right?
Uh-huh.
And there's one big mistake that people make about this. And I alluded to it. I sort of made it in my life, but I want to paint it to you in a kind of a bizarre way. But trust me on this, okay? Imagine the viewer wants to compete and do well in a triathlon. You know what those are, right? The day-long endurance test. It's ridiculous. I've never done one. I don't want to do one. I mean, I'm a fitness freak, but I don't want to do all that. But imagine the viewer wants to be successful in a triathlon, and I'm a former Ironman champion. Now I'm retired, and I coach people on how to be successful in triathlons. So they say, oh, Roy, can you help me? Because you've done it. You've been a champion. Maybe you can help me be. Sure, I'll work with you. So we sit down, we start talking, and the person starts asking me questions about the day of the race day questions. Like, how do you survive in the water? How do you transition from the water to the bike and the bike to the marathon? You're out there all day. So what do I eat? How much do I eat? Right? And as a former champion, I'm sitting there thinking, well, those are good questions. They're important questions. But man, that's not what you should be asking me about. You should be asking me, how do I get my butt in shape for this? Because if I get on that starting line, I can have the greatest strategy in the world on how to do this race. But if I'm out of shape, I'm not going to go the distance. I'm not going to make it. So the strategy doesn't even matter. So you need to focus on getting in shape. Then we could talk about a strategy. And as a relationship coach, people often come to me and they ask race day questions. Hey, Roy, where do I go to meet someone? How do I approach them or get them to approach me? Mm-hmm. Or what online platform should I use? How do I flirt? What do I say? And I'm like, okay, those are important questions. It's not what you should be asking me. You should be saying, Roy, how do I get myself in shape for something real? Like, how do I get myself prepared so that when I meet someone, I stand on the starting line, I'm ready to go the distance, right? So the biggest mistake people make is they focus on them. Where do I find them? Instead of, am I ready for something real? Mm-hmm. Am I sabotaging myself? Am I blocking myself? Do I have anything standing in the way of my ability to be close? Is there anything that I'm unaware of that is creating drama in my life and disconnection? And because most of my clients have a disappointing relationship history, I guess you could say, right? So that's what I do, is I first want to help a person change their whole mindset from where do I find the person and thinking that their love life is not good because they just haven't met the right person yet, and seeing that it's not that. It's that something's happening in them that they're not aware of. Like, I didn't know I had mommy issues. And it's like, oh, that was behind everything.
Mm-hmm.
I could have gone to I think it was in Top Gun where Tom Cruise said it's a target-rich environment in one of the scenes in his movie. I could have gone to the best place in the world to meet beautiful, available women. But with the junk that I was bringing, I would have just repeated all of my patterns. It would have been like Groundhog Day. It's like the same thing over and over again. Drama, disconnection, all that kind of stuff. So I first try to convince people to look at it that way, right? And then we just go on this discovery of what are the limiting beliefs? You know, how are you sabotaging yourself? Mm-hmm. I often use a little illustration like you're in a car and you want to go someplace. You want to go toward a healthy relationship. You know, you're hitting the gas pedal. Roy, I want to attract someone. I want a life partner. I really, really do. And you're hitting the gas. Like, why isn't the car going there? Like, why am I not going where I want to go? And I'm like, because you got your other foot on the brake. See, the car won't move when you have a foot on the brake. It'll make a lot of noise, but it won't go anywhere. I mean, you could try it. The car won't move, right? So my work is, let's discover how your foot is on the brake. How are you keeping it from happening? How are you sabotaging yourself? How are you, putting barriers between you and things? If you get your foot off the brake, the car takes off. Okay? And so that's my work. And it's so fun to work with someone who's willing to look in the mirror. A lot of people aren't. I wasn't for a while, and it's okay. But I find nothing happens until you do. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine you have to meet your clients where they're at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if it's going to take them a while, just be in that with them. Is that your approach? It's just.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. We talk about these things, and just like my coach talked to me, I was first thinking that it was my ex-wife's fault and my ex-fiance and all that. And she was patient with me, but she was firm. She was like, doing that, it's not working for you, is it? You keep getting in these relationships that don't work. So perhaps you should look at it a different way, right? But a lot of people that work with me as a result of this thing. They're seeing me on a podcast, or they listen to my own podcast, or they've come across my book or some video I made on YouTube. And so they already know my perspective, and it resonates with them. They're like, you know what? I might be unconsciously sabotaging myself. I mean, I might have my own mommy or daddy issues. I might have my own baggage, my own issues that I'm not aware of how it's attracting the wrong partners and the wrong patterns and the problems and the pain over and over again. So a lot of times when people contact me, they're somewhat already curious about what they can learn about themselves. But if not, yeah, you meet people where they are and, support them in, the path that they are to follow.
How would people know that they're getting in their own way? What are some of the things that they are exhibiting, doing that would,
Yeah. I think I've coined the phrase, the relationship Groundhog Day syndrome, right? Most people can point to, okay, I've had a couple of partners, and of course they're different people, different backgrounds, different whatever, but they're the same person. Like, why do I keep attracting narcissistic men? Or why do I attract the emotionally unavailable? Mm-hmm. Or people that have anger issues? Or, what I mean? Most people can point to a weird pattern that they seem to repeat.
Back in the day, we used to say same name, different game.
Right. So you sort of know something's up when you feel like I'm cycling something here, and I'm facing the same dynamics, and I'm in drama. It's not working. So it's usually the pain and the disappointment I mean, pain and disappointment they're awful, but they are such portals to the possibility of profound spiritual growth. Because your pain can make you ask questions that sometimes you might never ask. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, why can't I make a relationship work with someone? Why do I keep attracting the same kind of thing? It's like, right? Those are life-changing questions when you're serious about looking for answers. Yeah.
And also a huge pill to swallow when you think I'm the common denominator. Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Everyone can't be wrong. I'm there all the time. It's
Right.
got to be me. Yeah.
That's one of the things the ego loves. It loves to blame and point the finger. And, so, when my friend asked me, Roy, do you think you should work with someone? I mean, that's what I mean. I had just met the wrong people. It's a numbers game. I just got to date enough women. I'll finally run into a healthy one. See, it doesn't work that way, right? But that's how the ego sees it. And it's, when I started working with my coach and she started asking questions and poking around and tell me about different things and some of the patterns you find yourself in. And then I started to, I can remember distinctly the moment when I discovered I've got mommy, like it's my relationship with my mother. That was horrifying for a couple of reasons. It was first horrifying to face that relationship was still running in me and it was dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
But it was horrifying well, I actually called my ex-wife and I said, Lori, I just want to apologize. I blamed you for everything. It was me. So I had to go back and suck it up and take ownership of my part in these relationships. And the ego doesn't like that. I can tell you.
Not easy.
Right. You look in the mirror and you see something you don't like. Ugh, right?
That's right.
But in my experience, this is the only way life really changes is being willing to look and face what you need to find and deal with it. And it is hard to swallow at first, but that if I stick with it, it's just going to create benefits. It's just going to create the love life that I really want. I'm going to stop being in the Groundhog Day pattern I'm in because I'm opting out of my role in that. Right?
What are some of the themes that you see your clients show up with that's getting in the way of them really being available for their relationships?
Yeah, I would say a couple of them. The newest book I wrote, Relationship Bootcamp, I put it in fitness terms just because, you're a psychologist. You know that so much of the relationship conversation gets put in clinical, like shrink speak that people can't really relate to. It's more dry. It's good information, but it doesn't always resonate with a normal person. So I wanted to try to describe these things in ways people could relate to. So I put it in fitness terms. And I said that, there might be like 7 areas of physical fitness. You got strength training, aerobic training, and, core work and flexibility, nutrition, hydration, rest. Okay. I wonder if there's 7 areas or 7 relationship muscles that need to be strong if we're going to be ready for something real. Like get yourself in shape for something real, right? So I package it that way. And so my book is about the 7 muscles that you need to work on. And one of them I think is the most fun to talk about. It's the deepest, it's the darkest, it's the most difficult, but it's so profoundly important. And that is the muscle I call the relationship we have with our past. Okay? A lot of people I talk to, it was a lot like my own experience, is that we have baggage from the past. We We have hurt, we have wounds, we have scars. I often make the joke, you know, the only people in the world that don't have baggage are the little babies in maternity ward. Okay, so everybody else has got some degree of baggage, whether it's major trauma or just the bumps and bruises of being ghosted and gaslighted and dumped and of divorce and right. So we've got this stuff. Most of us haven't let it go. We carry it with us. And so it comes between us and a new person. It's like we relate to someone from our past. It's like we look through glasses. We're looking through our past. And so
That's right.
this pain gets projected. What it does is because we've been hurt to some degree, we guard our hearts. We can be a little suspicious. We have some degree of trust issue, right? So we're a bit guarded. We're not very comfortable with being open, being vulnerable, because I've done that before and I got hurt. So now we're guarded. We put walls up. And I'm like, walls will keep you safe, but they'll keep you single, right? Nobody can hurt you, but nobody can love you either. So a big conversation that I have to have with my clients is, tell me about your wall. Tell me about your past pain. And let's talk about how do we not erase the memory? You can't do that. But how do we let it go? How do we let it go so it's not standing in between? I think I mentioned this, that most of us get in relationships. It's like a menage a trois from hell. It's me and you and my past. And the three of us are in this relationship. And probably more like a menage a quad. It's me and you and your past and my past, and it all gets mixed in there. And, you know, we've been hurt, we've been ghosted. So that's the kind of thing that keeps us single, is our past and our trust issues and our inability. Because one of the things about, we all want to attract a person who's healthy and grounded and available for something meaningful, right? But people that are healthy, they can tell when they meet someone who has got their guard up. You know what I mean? That a person that is, I don't know if you're for real. I don't know what your deal is. I don't know if you're a player. So they can feel that they're being held accountable for somebody else's behavior. Okay? And I think healthy people, they just don't bring a sledgehammer to a date. They don't want to break down your wall.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to that girl over there who's got her arms wide open, saying, come play. You know, I'm open, I'm available, right? I have boundaries, I'm not an idiot, but I'm vulnerable, I'm open, I'm receptive, I'm not guarded. Okay, that's the person I want to go talk to. I don't want to have to fight through something, right?
Or fix.
That's not to shame anyone, but it's just to say, if we want to have a healthy relationship, we have to do the work on our own hearts. So there's room in there for somebody new. And it's not guarded and protected and defended, right? So that's some serious work. I know you do that work, I'm sure, with your client. I mean, that's some serious work. And we don't have time to talk about how you let go of the past. I have a whole process on how to do it, okay? But I mostly need to convince people that that might be the reason you're not connecting, you know? And that's just one of the muscles there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
They're all like that, right? But that one, I think, is one of the juiciest.
Probably the hardest, right?
I think so. And probably, it's arguable, but probably the most important one to deal with and make sure. Because, yeah, if you've got some baggage blocking you, you won't let yourself get close. It's just too risky. You're going to hurt me just like the last one did. Yeah.
And many of us have been hurt in past relationships. We have histories. So I think it's important to be able to self-reflect and sit with it and feel it in order to let go and be available
Right.
for the next person. Like,
Right.
I think a lot of us are serial monogamous. We go from one to the next because
That was me.
it's easy to do it that way.
Yeah, it is. And if we don't take time to get the lessons and the learnings from our previous relationships and why they went bad, we're just liable to repeat it. I mean, you know this as well as anyone. The divorce rate in second marriages is higher than first marriages.
Just keeps going up
Interesting.
with every subsequent marriage.
We just move on to a new person, and you know, we just
More
repeat.
damage.
That's what I did, right? So,
Layering
yeah,
damage.
I just want to let people hear me on this. I had my own pain and baggage, but I caused a ton of pain and baggage for women. There's a lot of women that have to do some work because of what I did. You know, I just want to admit that I did some shitty things out of my own pain, out of my own lack of awareness. But still, you know, there's some women that I hurt.
Yeah.
And I've done my best to go back and at least own up to what I did as best I could. But we're all in this together. It's just the work of a human being to try to meet a new person. Like it's like a sports analogy, right? To be very good at a sport, you need a kind of a short memory, right? You have to meet the next pitch or the next play or the next point with a clean emotional slate. You can't be going into the next thing being all upset about the last bad shot you hit or the last time you struck out or something. It's like you just got to be in the present moment and able to focus on what you're doing. But if you're clouded by the past, it's going to affect your performance. And it's just the same way in our love lives. You want to meet your next partner with a clean emotional slate. Is like, there's nothing between us. I've worked through it, so I'm not projecting on you. I'm not assuming. I'm not going to make this relationship go slower than maybe it should because I'm afraid. I'm not going to make assumptions on what your behavior means because in the past when a man did that, it meant this. And right. So yeah, you want to be able to meet someone with an open, available heart. Right. And if you meet someone and then they prove to be a moron, well, all right, you kick them in the nuts and send them down the road. Metaphorically.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right. But most of us meet people and we're guarded. And people say, you have to prove that you're worthy of my trust and openness, which means they start with the wall up and then
That's right.
You've got to prove yourself to me. Now, what good person wants to do that? I don't want to prove myself to you. I didn't do anything to you. I'm a good guy. I'm available. I'm not doing that. Right. So you want to meet someone that says, you got nothing to prove. I just want to get to know you. If you're an idiot, you're out. But, you're starting you're not starting with any negativity being delivered to you. It's not like I don't trust you. No, I trust you.
But there's got to be,
how this goes.
There's got to be some discernment for daters, right? So yes, I'm coming to you with an open heart. And yes, if you're an idiot, I'm going to notice that. But sometimes you don't notice for a while that this person isn't your person. So how do you suggest they screen or they vet?
Right. When I talk about really letting go of the past to where you have an open, available, vulnerable heart, it doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. It doesn't mean that you don't notice behavior. It doesn't mean you don't ask questions. It just means you're starting with the assumption that you are who you say you are. And then if you show me you're not, if you show up late to our dates and if you start acting weird and you're on your phone and you start doing things, then I'm going to ask you about that. And if you don't have pretty good answers, then, this relationship is going to be put on hold. Right. So yes, there is a real skill between being vulnerable but having boundaries. Having a softness and a fierceness, right? That's a difficult balance. But as long as you're aware of those things, right, and you're committed to communicating with someone, letting them know when you're beginning to feel uncomfortable about something, letting them know when something feels off. I don't want to make an assumption, but I want to talk about this pattern that I see happening between us, or I want to talk about the reaction I saw out of you the other night on this date. So when you're paying attention and you are committed to not playing games, but really revealing what you're thinking and what's going on in you, you're really equipped. You're not equipped to never be hurt or never find out that somebody was a player. But you give yourself the best chance at a healthy connection. Now, we could talk all about maybe people ought to consider delaying having sex a little bit, not from a moral perspective, but just from the perspective of, for many people, especially women, when they engage sexually, it's like a piece of their heart gets involved. And then if a person proves to be not who they say they are, the pain is just that much more. So I think maybe sometimes we need to consider slowing down our consummating of a relationship, giving it a bit more space, and kind of building the connection, getting to know each other better, so that it just decreases the chance that you attracted a player and that someone's just going to hit it and quit it, right? So we could talk all about that if you wanted to, but it's just a balance between keeping your heart open, but keeping somebody at the entrance with a sword, rather chop your head off if if you're a schmuck. Does that make sense?
Yeah, certain. Dr. Frankie talks all the time about slow dating, and when you're having sex, what happens to your body. So more than just your heart getting involved, that there's a physical response that you become addicted to. So I think that's important information, and people forget about that.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to date, right? And then when we throw in serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, chemicals, it makes it even harder. So why not slow down?
Go down.
So that we can stay grounded, clear, aware.
Yeah.
Right. There's actually someone, and maybe you know the person, I'm thinking of the name. There's someone who wrote a book, something like it was about challenging the sexual revolution. And the point they were making is the very thing we're talking about here, is that women would probably do well to delay sex for a number of reasons. And the only issue I took with the person, and what I would offer here, is that if you start dating someone, not that there's a rule that you have sex on the third date or something like that, but there's the relationship is going to progress to where you sort of know that's becoming an issue. Sort of know that maybe you want to, maybe they want to, but you're not going to do it this soon. I just argue for real transparency about that. Mm-hmm. I just argue for, in this case, a woman meeting a guy and with great chemistry, we can talk very easily, some things in common. Boy, this feels like maybe something special. I just want to let you know, Joe, I just have a policy that I'm not, as much as I want to jump your bones because you're really cute, I'm not doing that for probably 3 months. I'm just, you're going to need cold showers. I'm going to need cold showers. I'm just not doing that. So I want you to know that up front. And if you're not willing to let this develop and wait until I feel ready to do that, I completely understand if you want to walk away. But what I'm not for is making those kind of commitments and sort of hiding that. And because that begins to feel manipulative. And then a lot of men, well, I think I can speak for some of them, not all of them, but a lot of men, if they try to initiate something physical and they feel the woman's not ready for that, they interpret that a lot of times as she's just not into me. See, she's because I'm getting rejected and I don't think I should at this point or whatever. And so they misinterpret that. But if the woman says, no, I'm sort of slowing things down here, there's no rejection. I want you in the worst way. And I'm going to wear your ass out one day. Just that I've been hurt. I've been through some things. I've just made a commitment to myself. I'm not going to do that. I want to see a foundation built between two people. And then we can add that to this beautiful thing we're creating.
There's something to be said about delayed gratification also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just work with, male clients that I've coached that have said the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
If I'm after it rather than you, I'm not going to wait. Because that girl over there, she'll do it on the first date. Right? So it sort of reveals what, not to be manipulative, but it reveals what a guy's really about. Because if I'm looking for the love of my life, if I'm really wanting a relationship and a life partner, and I think you might be it, shit, I'll wait. Are you kidding me? If you're that special to me, I'll take a few cold showers because I'm interested in you, not just it.
Yeah.
So it sort of reveals people's real motivations. And I think that helps. It helps women. It keeps us from accumulating more baggage. Because if you get played a number of times, then you meet someone who's really not a player. And now you're going to be all kinds of defensive with this guy. And it's like, what's going on around here, right? So it turns into a mess.
Yeah, lots of interesting things for us to really consider as we approach dating, even in relationship, right? Thinking about just self-reflecting and thinking about, are we allowing that wall to keep a separation between ourselves and our partner? How can we deepen that intimacy?
Yep. Genuine curiosity, I think, is probably the premier value of a conscious person's life. I'm curious about what's really going on, even if you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
What's my part? Even though it looks like it's their fault. What am I missing? What am I doing? Maybe set things up. How is this familiar to me, right? What can I learn? Because most of us are just pretty good at pointing the finger and blaming, and that's what's so fun.
Getting out of it, right? We don't want to feel bad. You don't want it reflected back on you. Yeah.
No, I mean,
just get out of it.
That's what's so fun about our politics. Something happens in the news, like all the fires in California, and all the people. Whose fault is this?
But we want to blame, point fingers.
Who did
anybody say? I'm really wondering how maybe I've played a part in putting us in this position. I'm really doing some work on taking responsibility for my part. Nobody says that.
But
right?
Can you imagine how major that would be?
Yeah.
That would be major, right? But at least we can do it in our own love lives.
Yeah.
It's so easy for them to do it, then we ought to start ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Roy, how can listeners find you?
Oh, yeah. Well, easy. My website, coachingwithroy.com. So I chose it because it was pretty memorable.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, my contact info's on there, all of that. You mentioned my podcast, the Attracting Lasting Love podcast. It's a solo podcast. I've got like 205 episodes out right now.
Beautiful.
Everything you've ever wanted to learn, I think I touch on, that kind of thing. But I think the interesting thing for people, it's a little risky, but for the right person, it's the right thing. Since I talk about myself as a relationship trainer, kind of get you in relationship shape, I use the fitness metaphor. I've created, like, if you went to a gym and hired a personal trainer, if they're any good, the first thing they do is they put you through a bunch of assessments to kind of see what your current fitness level is. And then once they know what they're dealing with, they can put a plan together to get you to your goals. Okay. Well, I do that for my clients. And so I have something called the Relationship Fitness Self-Assessment Test right on the front page of my website. It's a 30-question true-false test. Take you about 3 minutes to take it. Absolutely confidential. But it's my way of giving you some feedback just from my perspective. It's not the gospel truth, but it's my perspective of trying to evaluate what is your current relationship fitness level. Because I just maintain the higher your fitness level, the better your love life is going to be. The lower it is, the worse it's going to be. Right? So I took my own test, even though I wrote it. And I answered the questions from the mindset I had back when I was single. And of course, I scored in the worst category. Right? That's one way I know the test is pretty accurate. If I would have got a decent score, then the test is crap because I was a mess. Okay? But you go to my website, you pick this thing, you get your results immediately, and it just gives you some feedback on, and it's probably going to tell you that you are human. It's probably going to tell you that you probably could use to get in better relationship shape, right? And then if you find that and you want me to put a program together to get you in shape, we can do it.
So Roy, is that the gift that you're
Yeah.
giving our listeners? Okay, great.
It's free. It's free. It's right there.
It's free.
It just gives you a window into at least what's Roy's opinion on my readiness for something healthy and sustainable. If the news you get isn't great, don't be discouraged by that. It's just, you can get in better shape. It's not that hard. Yeah. So,
Right. Thank you so much for imparting all your knowledge and your tools. And I'm sure there's so many. I mean, you have 3 books, so many different, so much information, plethora. So folks, definitely reach out to Roy. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. Kisses, hugs. Everyone take good care.
Take care.
Next time.
thank you.
Bye-bye.